We're going to share this podium.
All right, here we go.
So you use Osmocote, tell us, and it works for you.
Yeah, so Osmocote, like you had mentioned, is a temperature release, which for you guys is not a good thing. It will blast their entire root systems off the plant and just dumps it real quick. But for me, I can't use moisture release, which is the one that you guys use, because it blasts the roots, because nothing ever dries out completely indoor growing and in the tent setup. So,
and is it surface applied, or do you incorporate it in the soil?
Sometimes I'll go in and sprinkle on the top. I never do it per recommended dosage, but sometimes
Now let me ask, are you willing to share these secrets with the world?
That one I'm okay with.
Oh,
because I got some of the moisture release fertilizer, slow release fertilizer. I think you called it Nutricote.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was that brand or what, but I put it into my soil mix and put it on some plants, and it fried off the roots from about $3,000 in plants. So I was
that's an expensive bag of fertilizer.
Yeah. So that's why I'm okay with that one going out, because it is a very easy mistake to make, because the people down here swear by Nutricote. And so it's great down here, I'm sure.
And when I started, there was no Nutricote. It was Osmocote.
Okay.
And yes, I was growing a fishtail fern, an Ephemerlepis, and when you dump that fertilizer in the summertime, oh my God, they could be so soft you couldn't touch the plant without busting it.
Yeah.
So Nutricote was a godsend, and it can last for 6 or 9 months, which is great.
And because you were asking about fertilizer in general, but I do supplement some. I should be better on that too, because I do mix it in, and then if a plant's been potted for longer than 6 to 9 months, I'm gonna go ahead and sprinkle some on the top just to replenish. But the soil mix, I don't feel like I put enough in there, and because I had that experience where it burned it. So even with it being temperature, I'm like, maybe let's not. So I supplement a little.
Not as much is better than too much.
Yeah. And so do some general hydroponics mixes, but I've actually swapped over to a different brand, and I'm going to be trying a new one, but I have never tested that one yet. So we'll see.
Do a trial before you do the whole thing.
What was your controversial take about how to grow?
So I think that, when you get into plants and it's becoming more of a business, one of the things you've got to look at is, like, are you growing this plant for a specific, what are you growing it for? And for me, I'm growing these plants to breed and then make new babies, because that's my business, and that's how you've got to be able to keep up somehow. And so a lot of people base their care guides for these plants off of what's in the wild, and I think that's a great idea, and it works great for a lot of people, but I can do it better than how the plants grow in the wild. And it's they'll grow faster, they will have bigger infructuescences, and it's something that I've noticed. And I guess that's, people do it for ornamental gardens and vegetables. You can grow vegetables better than they do in their natural habitat.
Ron, you agree?
On that line, if you're in the wild, sometimes you see a magnificent Anthurium or Philodendron, but most of the time they are not in top-notch shape. Maybe the handful of top leaves is, but a lot of time it's mechanical damage, it's inconsistent light,
some fungal issues.
Yeah, they aren't grown in peak conditions. They're grown in their natural environment. It's not peak, and so
it's beautiful in its own way.
Yes,
but it can be done more efficiently, and that's kind of my goal, is to, like, maybe push and experiment and see if I can do it just a little bit more efficient.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think he's got it.
Yeah. Sorry, I talked a lot on that one.
I think you had more to share. Yeah.
Wait, and you said that Osmocote is temp dependent and Nutricote was water? Is that what we're saying?
Osmocote is temperature release, slow release.
Yeah.
Nutricote is
water
release.
And for us, that time the time release is more effective here. And
what's the moon rocks? That's what I feel like Enid uses. That's what we got from Justin too that one time, and it was a moisture release as well.
Ooh.
But I
Lesson
didn't
learned.
put too much of that out, and so that was a trial run. He had given us a little bag, and I took a picture of it, but I didn't go and read the like super fine print. And that's what happened the first time when I really messed up. Was I did not read the microscopic like data sheet on it, and you know everybody knows down here because y'all are growing down here, and it's a big topic, but home growers, it might not be such talked about topic. So
I think the lesson here is before you need to trial things.
yeah,
before
or research a little more too. It's
Well-
not as common information though. It's people are picky about what they share, especially when it comes to fertilizers.
Well, thank you guys.
Yes.
That moment with Ron and Hunter happened at Barry Schwartz's house, but getting there was a journey. We started the day in Miami before 4 a.m., alarms going off while roosters were still asleep. The plan was ambitious. Grant's house, then Barry's, and maybe even a third stop if we could pull it off. Hunter fell back asleep almost immediately, so it ended up being me and Monet heading across the state. Monet fell asleep too, and at some point, I very confidently decided I could also fall asleep while driving. Thankfully, Florida's rumble strip saved us, and Monet took over before we became a cautionary tale. After spending time learning about Grant's collection, we hit the road again, thinking we were meeting Hunter and Matt at Barry's. Then, Monet got a call. She tried to keep it a secret, hand over her mouth, whispering, clearly panicking. When I asked who it was, she snapped, "Nobody," which is impressive because Monet is physically incapable of lying for more than like 3 seconds. As soon as she got off the phone, I side-eyed her and she immediately unraveled. Ron had been trying to surprise me by showing up at Barry's. She had promised not to tell me, but he kept calling and the secret exploded. For the rest of the drive, we were both ridiculously excited, not only to see Barry and Matt, but to see Ron once more before heading home. We were the first to arrive at Barry's and helped him unload plants and artwork from the show. One by one, everyone else trickled in. When we initially set up this stop, it was to do an updated tour and interview video, but with Ron and Matt joining us, I knew it probably wouldn't happen. I set my camera up hoping to at least capture Ron and Barry sharing decades of plant history, but Ron insisted on filming the next generation instead. So many stories were told. Conversations overlapped, the sun started sinking faster than we realized, and suddenly, we noticed Monet's plants still hadn't been shipped. Ron and Monet ran to the post office while the rest of us stayed behind. I sat down on the grass for a moment and let the day catch up to me. I sat there thinking about all the small choices that had brought me to each of these people. Making a TikTok account, tissue culture, going to IAS alone for the first time, planting Aroids outside. And somehow, all of this led to Barry's house on a Monday. I looked around in complete disbelief that this is my life, and that's when I noticed the plants. They were still sitting there wrapped in plastic, thirsty and suffocating. I knew Barry would be out there all night caring for them after we left if I didn't help, so I took the initiative and started unwrapping. And then it hit me. If I didn't label these plants right then, no one would. And they were far too expensive to become no IDs. There were no tags anywhere. Of course. I stood there staring at the plants, trying to figure out what to do. I looked around and noticed my backpack. Surely I have a marker or something in my backpack. I dug around and found 5 white tags. This will work, but I still need a few more. I dumped my bag out and one single pink tag fell out on top. Oh snap, I thought out loud. Hunter gave me a massive stack of pink tags so we could keep track of whose plants were whose. I ran to my car, grabbed the stack, and got to work. What started as a few plants quickly turned into an assembly line once Ron and Monet got back. I found larger pots and made tags. Ron repotted, flashlight in one hand and soil in the other. Barry moved plants into the greenhouse and found plants needing repotted. Monet shuffled the plants back and forth between the 3 of us. 4 plants turned into 10, 10 turned into 20. Somewhere along the way, the sun disappeared completely, and none of us even noticed. We probably repotted 100 plants. Eventually, Barry asked if we were hungry, and we all said yes. I don't think he wanted us to leave, and we didn't want the day to end either. He took us to his favorite restaurant, where the chef came out and hugged him like family. That was the first time all week I actually sat down and didn't think about what I needed to be doing or planning for next. And being able to relax allowed the exhaustion to finally hit. I don't remember what I ate. I just remember that whatever it was incredible. We sat around the dinner table and chatted like we just didn't spend the entire day together. And after dinner, we finally said goodbyes, and Hunter, Monet, and I went to Tampa. By morning, they too left as Aroid week wound down. So when you saw that clip of Ron and Hunter breaking down fertilizer choices, just know it lived inside a much bigger story. And that was what that day was really about. I hope to sit down soon and see if any of the conversations from this day can be shared online, but for now, I'll leave you with this video of my very first interview, which happened to be with Barry. And if that doesn't interest you, check out the tours playlist where we tour Barry and many other plant people's collection. Hope to see you next week. Bye.